When the Greek warrior Patroclus, friend of Achilles, is killed at the hands of Hector, we have a fierce fight that breaks out over Patroclus's body. And we'll see now in the Iliad, not just with Patroclus, we'll see this also with Hector, the attempt to grab and desecrate the body. It doesn't work with Patroclus. There's a fierce fight. The gods are able to protect Patroclus's body, and the Greeks are able to get him back. With Hector, we'll see the opposite. Hector's body is, in fact, desecrated by Achilles, in fact, again and again. But the gods protect it. The gods protect Hector's body, prevent it from being, in a sense, shredded to pieces so that Hector, like Patroclus, is able to have a funeral. And these funerals in Homer are really something to behold. We'll get to that. I want to talk about a really touching and remarkable scene that Homer gives us when Patroclus is dying and then dies. Homer tells us that the immortal horses of Achilles. Remember, Patroclus took Achilles' chariot, he took his armor, he took his horses. And Achilles has 3 horses pulling his chariot, now pulling Patroclus' chariot, and 2 of those are immortals, which means they're horses that don't die. Kind of a remarkable phenomenon. You've got beasts that don't die. And yet these immortal horses, when they see Patroclus dying and then dead, they begin to weep. And Homer tells us that Zeus, observing the weeping of the immortal horses, takes pity on them and, in a sense, consoles them. Now Zeus says this: "Why did we give you to Lord Peleus?" Peleus is, of course, Achilles' father. "To a mortal, while you are deathless and ageless." So the horses were evidently a present from Zeus to Achilles' father, Peleus. Zeus goes on to say, "Was it so you could share men's pain? Nothing is more miserable than man." And that's the line I want to focus on here. What is Zeus getting at here when he says, "Nothing is more miserable than man"? I think the way to think about this is to think of a sort of structure of the universe in which you have 3 levels of being. At the top, you have the gods, and they are immortal. And then in the middle, you have man, and at the bottom, you have the beasts. Now, man and the beasts have something in common, which is that they both die. The gods don't die, but animals, including man, of all types, do die. But there's a difference between the beasts and man, isn't there? Which is that man can anticipate death. So human beings know that they're going to die, and animals don't. So Zeus appears to be saying here that this knowledge, this awareness of death, brings particular misery to man, causes, in fact, I think it's the philosopher Heidegger who made this phrase famous, anxiety in man, even during life, precisely because you know that life is short and life must at some point come to an end. So here you have this point beautifully dramatized because Homer has introduced these immortal horses. So the horses, in theory, are below man. They're at the bottom of not the food chain, but they're at the bottom of this kind of hierarchy. Man is in between the beasts and God, and yet these immortal horses have something in common with the gods, which is that they don't perish. And so here's Homer, and here's Zeus, sort of speaking to these horses and highlighting the distinctive features of man, namely A, mortality, and B, the awareness of mortality, And essentially what Zeus is saying is this is what makes human life so miserable. Now, from another point of view, a point of view in a sense perhaps unavailable to Zeus because Zeus is a god, it's precisely because human beings are mortal that many of the most important values of human existence come into play. Values like courage and sacrifice and so on. And I've made that point before. But here Zeus is making the opposite point, that a good deal of the anxiety, misery, and perhaps wretchedness of human existence comes from the simple fact that it is so short.